Hi everybody, today we are going to be making these perfect bakery quality bagels and you will not believe how easy it is to do this at home. Hi everybody, welcome back to Two Peas in the Kitchen. Today we are going to make our own bagels. Look how beautiful these bagels are. So we recently went to the bagel shop and we got a dozen bagels and it was over $20. And it occurred to us that you can actually make your own bagels for like less than $3 a dozen. Seriously, they're so easy to make. These are super delicious. We're gonna show you how to do it. And the best thing about it is you can make a dozen bagels. They freeze so beautifully. I slice them, I keep them in the freezer. You can just pop them out, stick them in the toaster when you want one, and you're really not gonna believe how easy this is. So I'm gonna get together our dry ingredients and I'll show you how to get started. Okay, so I am going to use a countertop mixer to do this dough. You do not have to do that. You can use a fork, you can hand knead it. You don't have to have a mixer to do it, but the dough is pretty firm, so it does make it a little bit easier. I'm going to use a bread hook in my KitchenAid, my stand mixer here. We're going to get started with our dry ingredients. This is 826 grams. I've already measured this out. This is organic King Arthur bread flour. Again, we like to weigh our dry ingredients for our bread. So this has already been measured out. And I'm now going to add in, this is just fine salt, any fine salt. We're adding 17 grams of salt right on top of here. And then I'm going to use 3 grams of yeast. So you will see in the description of this video where the ingredients are listed. I will also put the teaspoon and cup measurements in there just in case you don't have a kitchen scale, but it really does make it much easier to make bread. Okay, so we have our 3 grams of yeast here. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to warm some filtered water to about 103 to 105 degrees. You're going to need about 2.5 cups, but I'm going to get that together and then we're going to weigh it and I'll tell you the weight that you're going to need of that. Okay, so this is the water that I'm going to use. I did use a little counter thermometer to take the temperature. It's about 102 degrees. In the house right now, it's about 68 degrees. So we do like our water just to be a little bit warmer when it's a little bit cooler. It's winter outside. So now we're going to go ahead and pour the water in. We're going to need 538 grams of water, which is about 2 1/3 cups. Let's see here, 538. Oop. Okay, so I'm going to use the bread hook and I'm going to go ahead and get this all hooked up here in our stand mixer. We're going to start at a very slow speed just to get the ingredients incorporated, and then once the ingredients are incorporated, I'm going to turn it up to a low medium speed, and I'm going to go ahead and use the bread hook and on the dough for approximately 5 minutes. So we're going to start on a low speed here just to get the ingredients all incorporated. It'll probably take about 30 or 45 seconds, and then once the ingredients are all incorporated together, we're going to turn up the speed to a medium speed and we're going to let it knead with the bread hook for approximately 5 minutes. After the bread is done kneading, you're going to cover it and leave it in a warm spot in your kitchen for approximately 2 hours. Okay, so we have a second batch of the dough that has already been sitting for about 2 hours and it's ready for us to work with. So we're going to go ahead and use this. You can see that the dough has doubled in size and it's very kind of pillowy and light and fluffy to the touch. And we're going to go ahead and work with this while the other batch that we just made is proofing over to the side. So we're going to just lightly flour this board that I'm working with here. You can also do this right on your counter if you don't have a big board like this. And we're going to go ahead and take the bagel dough. I'm using this bowl scraper. These are really great, these plastic bowl scrapers. We're going to get this big pillowy dough ball right out of the bowl here. Put that off to the side. So what we're going to do is we're going to use our kitchen scale And we're gonna divide this ball of dough into 12 approximately even little pieces. And they're going to weigh approximately 115 grams each. If you don't have a kitchen scale, you can just divide it the best that you can into 12 even pieces. The first thing I usually do is just divide it in half to the best of my visual calculation there, and that makes it a little bit easier. I'm gonna put a little tiny bit of flour right on my scale. Okay, so we're gonna just divide this into 12 approximately 115 gram pieces here, and it's totally fine just to get them approximate. You can just take little pieces off and stick them onto the next piece because we're gonna shape them in a few minutes. I'll show you how to do that. So all these little pieces that get added are gonna get incorporated into each ball. So I'm gonna go ahead and get all 12 of my little pieces ready, and then I'll show you what to do next. Okay, so now we have our 12 pre-bagels here that have all been weighed, and they're approximately 115 grams each. So now they need to be shaped. So you can see I've had to sort of glob on some different pieces here. So we have to pre-shape these so that those pieces get incorporated. So what I like to do is I just kind of make a little rectangle out of it, and then you just kind of pull the corners in and pull it over the top and kind of push that in, and then pull the corners over again. You're making like a little, almost like a little dumpling, it looks like here. And then you kind of roll the whole thing over those folds like that. And you can just kind of try to seal the bottom a little bit so that it just makes a nice round ball like that. And you can see that it's pretty cohesive. Now the bottom of it, you will still see all those little pieces, but that's okay because this dough is gonna rest for about 15 minutes after I get these balls ready, and that will all incorporate while it's resting. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that with the other 11 of our pre-bagels here. And then once I have them all ready, I'll come back and I'll show you. We're gonna cover them with a little bit of plastic wrap, and we're gonna let all of the dough rest for about 15 minutes while we prepare our water bath. Okay, so I've pre-shaped all of our little bagel balls here, and I'm going to cover them here with a little bit of plastic wrap, and I'm just going to let them rest and just rise a little bit more under this plastic wrap for approximately 15 minutes. While the dough is resting, I have gone ahead and prepared our water bath for our bagels. So in this pot here, and we're gonna get a little bit closer in a minute, there are 8 cups of water, 42 grams of honey, and 17 grams of salt. And while that is resting, I'm gonna bring this to just a very slow boil, kind of over medium heat. And that way that'll be all ready for our water bath for our bagels as soon as those are done resting and we shape them. At this time, you should preheat your oven to 475 degrees. Okay, so we're about ready to make our bagel shapes here, but the first thing that we're gonna do is I have 2 baking sheets here. I have some unbleached parchment paper, which I've just sprayed with a little, you can just spray them with a little avocado oil. I've just used a little just cooking spray on there. And then this is just cornmeal, and I'm just gonna very gently put a little bit of this onto the spray that I've sprayed on here. And this is just gonna make sure that your bagels don't stick. You don't need a lot of it. Just kind of make sure all the areas are covered. So I'm gonna do that with both of these cookie sheets. And then I'm gonna show you how to make bagel shapes out of our little bagel balls. All right. Okay, so this is the fun part of making bagels. Take our plastic wrap here. I'm gonna reserve this because I'm gonna use it when I'm letting the bagels rest here on our cookie sheet. So what you're gonna do to create the bagel shape is you're gonna pick up a ball and you just take your index finger like that and you stick it right through the middle so that it goes all the way through. See it come through the bottom there. And then if you just stretch it a little bit like that, what you'll be able to do is you'll be able to get both of your index fingers in the middle, and then you just very gently turn them like that and you stretch outward while you are doing that. And look at that. It's starting to look like a bagel. And then I just kind of shape it, make sure that it's kind of even on all the edges. And they certainly do not need to be perfect. These are going to go into a boiling water bath like I talked about, and then they're going to bake. So they certainly don't need to look absolutely perfect at this juncture. So you just kind of maneuver it and manipulate it until it's about maybe an inch around in the diameter around the hole of the bagel. So you're going to do that with each of these, and then you're going to just put them over here on your sheet on top of the cornmeal that we have there. And I'm going to go ahead and continue to do that with the other 11 bagels that we have here. You can see it just kind of stretches as I move my fingers around like that. And then I just kind of use my hands to make it look a little bit more even along the sides, just like that. So there's our bagel shape. So I'm going to go ahead and finish that. And then I will show you what we're going to do with our boiling water bath. Okay, we are ready to get our bagels into their boiling water bath. Okay, so you can see here, there's the outside of the pan here, you can see a little bit of residue from the salt and the honey that's in the water. So you want it to be just kind of at a slow boil. So we're going to take, in this pot here, I think I can fit comfortably 3 bagels at a time. We're just going to plop them in here. And what we're going to do is we're going to let them sit for 1 minute on this side. And then I'm going to use this tool. You can use whatever you have in your kitchen, or a spoon, or whatever's easiest. You can even use chopsticks to flip them over to do another minute on the other side. But you can see while they're in the boiling water bath how they're already starting to puff up a little bit. You can see they're rising in the boiling water. While they're in there, I'll show you, we're going to make some everything bagels, and we're going to make some sesame bagels. So I've used these 2 flat pasta bowls to get these seeds ready. When the bagels are wet and they come back out onto this cookie sheet, we're going to dip them into these different seeds. So that's been about a minute there. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to flip these gently over, and you can see they're already starting to develop that kind of nice crust that you see on bagels just from being in the water bath here. So we're going to do another minute here of them on this side, and then I'm going to take them off with this strainer here. I'm going to let the water come off, let them drain a little bit. I'm going to put them right back onto the cookie sheet on top of the cornmeal that we have here, and I'm going to let them cool for a few minutes, and then I'm going to dip them into the seeds, and I'll show you how I'm going to do that in just a minute. Okay, you can see how nice and puffy that got from the water bath, and I'm going to go ahead now and I'm going to put in the other 3 for their bath. Whoops, wrong one. While these guys are resting, I'm just going to let those cool a little bit, and then we're going to go ahead and dip them in the seeds, but we're going to let them cool for a few minutes first. Okay, so this little guy here, we're going to do an everything bagel out of that. So I just go ahead and dip it right in the everything seasoning, and look at that. If you want the seeds all over the whole bagel, you can go ahead and use your hands and kind of do that. My personal preference is to just do a little bit of the topping right on the top like that, but that's personal. You can do it however you like to do it. But there we have a sesame bagel. Do one more sesame bagel. And there we go. Okay, so now that we have these out of the water bath, we've done some seeds on some of them. We're also going to do some plain ones. They're going to go into a preheated 475-degree oven. They cook for 10 minutes, and then you flip the cookie sheet around and they cook for another 10 minutes. I have found that the best way to do this is to cook them in the upper third of your oven. And Rafi just taught me something that I didn't know, which is that if you take a sheet of heavy-duty foil and put it on the shelf right below these bagels, it will help deflect some of the heat so they don't get too done on the bottom, because we are baking them in a very hot oven. And I've tried it and it works wonders. So if you find that you're having a problem with your bagels getting a little bit too done on the bottom, I would recommend that. Just put a little bit of foil underneath and bake it in the upper third of your oven so they get nice and crusty on top. So we're going to go ahead and bake these, and I'll come right back and we'll show you when they're done how beautiful they are. Okay, look at this. Our bagels are done. And I would argue that these bagels are as gorgeous as any bakery bagels that you can buy. They're perfect. They're nice and brown on the bottom. They are very fluffy. And the only thing that I would say I might be a little more careful about is just making the holes nice and wide in the bottom. You have to be a little cautious about that. So these baked for 20 minutes. I did 10 minutes. I flipped the baking sheets around and then I finished them for another 10 minutes and they turned out perfect. I'm going to slice them when they cool and I'm going to freeze them, and that way I can just pop them out of the freezer and put them right into the toaster in the morning. One other thing that we just wanted to mention is you can also shape the bagels onto your cookie sheets and put them into the refrigerator and then continue the following morning with the water bath and baking them in the oven if that's easier for you and you want warm bagels right out of the oven in the morning. We hope you love these bagels as much as we do, and we'll see you next time.